Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's the Steve Malzberg Show, but today it's my show. Joe Concha filling in for Mr. Malzberg. Beautiful Friday afternoon. Office. We still don't know the Holder resignation aftermath is Texas Congressman Blake Farenthold. Blake, welcome to the show. Blake is not with us right now. Apparently, happy hour does start earlier than expected. So, some thoughts on Holder, everybody, since while we try to get the congressman back up for a moment. Obviously, he's out, and but he's not quite out because they still have to find a replacement for him. And if the GOP is able to capture the Senate, remember they need 6 seats to get to 51. They get to 51, and we're talking about ex-Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Wouldn't that be nice? So, all that said, what does all that mean in terms of Holder? Well, you have to kind of, I don't know, approve. The appointment has to be okayed by Republicans. And if they're controlling the Senate, well, the appointment has to be okayed by Republicans. And if they're controlling the Senate, well, that changes the whole. We'll talk to the congressman about this as well once we get him back up. When we look back at the 6 years of his tenure under Obama, I think what you're going to find from many conservative circles, at least, that this was the most divisive, the most polarizing political attorney general that we've had in that position. Never before has the top cop been so involved in racial issues, has injected himself into the political process as Mr. Holder did. And as a media guy, I can tell you that 2 scandals in particular were very troubling. First was the AP phone records that were taken by the DOJ for no apparent reason. Over 200 reporters, all of their records, the Associated Press, taken by the DOJ with no explanation and, more importantly, with no heads up, no advance notice whatsoever. But more disturbing is what happened to Fox News reporter. He reports for the State Department. That's James Rosen. And if you watch Rosen, you'll see that he's as down the middle, as straight-laced, as honest as it comes when it comes to reporting on all things State Department and why the Attorney General's office felt the need to keep tabs on him. And that's exactly what they were doing. Well, that's almost Orwellian. It's something that you see in Vladimir Putin's old KGB. So these were a couple of things that came up during the Holder tenure, and we also have, as you see on your screen, this is where we're at right now. He was, yes, the first American Attorney General. He held that position for a long time, 6 years. If you remember John Ashcroft under George W. Bush, he basically stepped down right after Mr. Bush was elected, or re-elected, I should say, in 2004. The White House yet to name a successor. We've heard a lot of names floated out there, and again, it's going to, as Noah Rothman brought up earlier on the show, it's all going to come down to the midterms, certainly, and who can be approved, and if Mr. Obama can be aggressive with his approach or realize that the only person who's going to get in there is one that a Republican Senate approves. So that'll be interesting. So yeah, there you are. You're looking at him, the 82nd Attorney General of the United States. You know, we had a couple of very controversial things that happened, particularly fast and furious. That's what started pretty much at the beginning of his tenure. Also, obviously, not looking into allegations around voter intimidation in the Black Panther Party, the new Black Panther Party, as it pertains to the 2008 elections, and then involving federal investigators. This is most recent. This is what people will remember as obviously something that happened just over this summer, involved federal investigators with the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri. So he went down there, and boy, you know, this is just, we see in Chicago over July 4th weekend, 82 people were shot, 16 killed. We don't see the Attorney General going to the Windy City to inject himself is that Mr. Holder liked to inject himself not only into politics, but into racial issues as well. And if you read blogs on the left, and if you read even the Time magazine article from yesterday, he's been called a great civil rights activist and attorney general. And again, if you're the top cop in the country, well, what does that exactly have to do with civil rights advocacy? Either pick one or the other. Well, what does that exactly have to do with civil rights advocacy? Either pick one or the other. If you want to go run the NCAACP, be my guest, but you're the Attorney General, so why? Again, you're getting involved with politics. Not quite sure about that one. From a media perspective, boy, it's a bit disturbing to know, according to a Business Insider, a story that was out yesterday, that Al Sharpton is quoted as saying that he will be very much involved in the process of selecting our next Attorney General. Now, the Reverend is not only an activist, he's also a host on MSNBC at 6 p.m. every night. You may not know that because hardly anybody is watching Mr. Sharpton, but here he is again injecting himself into policies around this White House. And earlier in the summer, we saw reports around Mr. Sharpton exchanging emails on a daily basis, he says, with Valerie Jarrett, who some call the de facto president of this country, and also plenty of visits to the White House as well. According to the White House logs, and you know, if you want to stretch it even further, the entire MSNBC primetime lineup was once invited to the White House to, and this was a quote from the Huffington Post, sell the country on the president's tax plan. And you say, boy, sell the country. They're not going there for an interview. They're going there for instructions. So the media and politicians, unfortunately, are cross-pollinating once again, and it's why trust in media now is at the all-time low that it is, because it simply seems like everybody's playing. So as a guy who reports on media, unfortunately, the state of media is not where it should be. We're more polarized as a country than ever before. Media has a lot to do with that. It seems like more and more we're in the business of picking a side. It's either we're going to give you one narrative, we're going to give it to the other, and somewhere in there is a truth, and people watching at home say, well, what am I watching here? What am I getting? Or how about three parties? That would be very interesting. Producer Meyer just gave me that idea. Well, the problem with three parties is the third party doesn't necessarily have the money to compete. So anyway, here we go. Third party. Parties do an adequate job. Third party needed. Look at that. Wow. A third party needed 58%, according to Gallup. Say that we need a third party in this country. Only 35% say, you know, the two-party system, that's working just fine for me. So think of that split. That's a 23-point split at one point. Look at that. Probably entering January of 2013, the country was pretty much divided on this issue. 46-45, now 12 points up to a third party needed and 10 points down. Support for a major third party, independents, well, that only makes sense, right? That's 71% of those who call themselves independents, and I always question how exactly you're an independent in this country anymore. Nearly 3 in 4 saying that we need a third major party. Democrats only 47%, Republicans 46%. Well, you know, those numbers are the least surprising thing that I've seen in quite some time. Okay, and good. It seems we have the Texas Congressman back on the line. Sir, thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon.
No problem. I just jiggled the wires on the phone and got it to work.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Unfortunately, we've run into a time shortage, so I'm going to leave you a very open-ended question here. Actually, no, we have a couple of minutes. So first, in your mind, I ask you this following question. You tell me exactly what comes to mind. The legacy of Eric Holder's tenure under President Obama the last 6 years.
The politicalization of the Justice Department, taking the job of Attorney General from being the people's lawyer to being the president's lawyer.
That's a very succinct and an answer that we've heard from the likes of Darrell Issa, who said he was the most divisive attorney general in this country's history, and that our confidence in the justice system greatly eroded under Mr. Holder. In terms of who will replace him, you know, there isn't a strong front runner out there that I've read or I've heard about. Obviously, the midterms will play a role. If you were a betting man, who would you say replaces Eric Holder as Attorney General?
I don't know. You know, there's some U.S. attorneys out there. I think Janet Napolitano has been mentioned. administration is riddled with scandals that have gone to the Justice Department to die. If somebody truly loves the law and truly loves America, I don't think he's going to get appointed, because I don't think the president wants some of those boxes looked into.
And Congressman, up on our screen, we do have some potential successors that's been bandied about in the media. Massachusetts Governor, a lot done, probably a dead-end kind of position, even though it is pretty good, looking good, pretty good in the resume as far as being Attorney General. Any of those names you think have a shot?
I can't predict what Barack Obama would do. I'd be terribly disappointed if he appointed a politician and not a prosecutor or someone who's dedicated to the law. But the history of this presidency, it could be anybody.
Okay. Well, sir, thank you. I wish we had more.